We met at yeah.
Hi again. So our next speaker is Katherine Park. She's an infection control practitioner over at the Ottawa Hospital since 2020. Prior to that, Katherine was an RN and she also has a CIC. Her background is in cardiology and labor and delivery. At the IPAC Canada conference, she presented on 2 oral presentations. One was about the ethical infection prevention and control framework in the NICU and special care nursery, and the other one was a measles preparedness algorithm for the maternal newborn team. There you go, Katherine.
Thank you. All right. Can everyone hear me? Yes? Okay. So I have combined both presentations into one 10-minute presentation, so I won't take up too much of your time, I promise. So the first one, it's supporting families and protecting infants, an ethical approach to post-pandemic NICU and special care nursery visitation. I have nothing to disclose. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, there were strict visitor restrictions meant COVID-positive parents and high-risk contacts were unable to visit their infants for 10 days or more. In our open bay level 3 NICU and level 2 special care nursery, where isolation space is extremely limited, this created a significant ethical, emotional, and clinical challenges. These restrictions were intended to protect vulnerable infants, but they also caused unintended harms, such as disrupted bonding, increased parental distress, and moral distress amongst staff. By winter of 2025, public health guidance still hadn't changed, so our team turned to the Ethical Infection Prevention and Control, or the EIPAC framework, to guide a more balanced approach. This tool can be found on the IPAC Canada's website. So using the 4 IDEA steps, identify, determine, explore, and act, we worked with the NICU special care nursery leadership, neonatology, frontline staff representative, IPAC leadership, and an essential care provider representative. And we identified key ethical principles which shaped our analysis. So there was trust and fairness, promoting well-being for infants, families, and staff, harm reduction, so we used a cautious incremental approach. We then developed a risk matrix that considered masking, testing, isolates, spacing realities, and we also reviewed the current TOH policies for other respiratory viruses. And then the last component is action. So before I get to there, our risk matrix, we had 3 options that we explored. So for the purpose of this presentation, I won't go into each one, but essentially the working group selected option number 2, which was a moderate risk harm reduction approach. This allowed COVID positive ECPs to visit from day 6 to 10 if masked and clinically approved. The infants must remain in their isolates and staff will be using full PPE. Asymptomatic high-risk contacts may visit while masked, and infants were not going to be designated as high-risk contacts because we would only have 1 isolation room. And non-ECP visitors must continue to follow the current ministry guidance. And so this policy was implemented on May 1st, 2025. So our experience in the first year, so despite similar or higher community viral activity, we are happy to report that we had no hospital-acquired viral infections in both the NICU or the special care nursery. There were no outbreaks. There were no morally distressing visitation dilemmas as compared to previous years. And there was no escalation. So the only question that we were asked actually this past year was, where is the policy? We also sent out a staff survey for the month of April in the post-respiratory season, and we obtained 61 anonymous responses, which showed a moderate to strong comfort with the revised policy and a strong agreement that it supports family-centered care. So the top benefits included improved bonding and mental well-being, more consistent care, increased skin-to-skin, and better communication and workflow. There were some challenges, which included coordinating stakeholders. The actual implementation and reviewing of the ethical framework actually took a long time, the literature review and stuff, so it wasn't quick is the best way to put it. We also had a delayed ECP representation, and there was challenges collecting exposure data. So these insights will help guide our future revisions. So in conclusion, the EIPAC guided NICU special care nursery visitor policy balanced infection prevention with family-centered care, and it reduced moral distress among staff, and it improved operational flow. So my second oral presentation was sharing the work we had done to develop a perinatal measles algorithm, a tool that was designed to support our maternal newborn team. Our second project emerged as measles activity increased across Ontario, and while the emergency department was well prepared, we discovered that the maternal newborn program faced unique vulnerabilities, and such as 2 patients at once, multiple care teams, and staff who rarely encounter any sort of infections. And why this is important is measles is significantly more severe in pregnancy. Approximately 80% require hospitalization. There's higher rates of pneumonia, hepatitis, and mortality. And there's also strong associations with miscarriage, stillbirth, preterm birth, and low birth weight. Also, if an infection occurs within 2 weeks of delivery, infants may develop congenital measles, which can be life-threatening. So how we got started, we reviewed, there we go. We reviewed the literature, then we consulted our maternal newborn teams. So this included the mother-baby unit, labor and delivery, and NICU. And then we mapped our own processes from triage to postpartum care. And then some key questions included, is the patient still communicable? What delivery method is going to be expected? How many staff are required? How will we safely move patients through shared spaces? How do we manage premature infants or transfers to special care nursery? And then by August 2025, we finalized a simple 1-page per scenario algorithm for rapid use in our high-stress environment. So the algorithm covers communicability periods, required precautions, so contact, droplet, and airborne, the definition of immune versus non-immune staff and visitors, as well as escalation pathways and who to notify, so IPAC, public health, infection, ID, isolation room requirements and alternatives if the AIIR room is not available, transport guidance, including isolate use and airway filters for NICU special care nursery transfers. Our goal was simplicity and usability. So each scenario fits on a single page so staff can reference it quickly and in real time. And the intention was to create a tool that supports rapid decision making in a high stress environment. So ensuring consistency and safety for both the pregnant patient and the newborn. Both pathways provided clear criteria for private room versus airborne isolation rooms, enhanced precautions, transport procedures, or selection guidance as well. And we determined at the end of all of this that the L&D ORs were the safest due to proximity and reduced exposure risk. So some of the lessons we learned along the way, one of our campuses lacks an airborne isolation room in L&D just due to the age of the building. That's why we have the option of alternatives to the airborne isolation room. We reviewed patient movements through public hallways, so this required careful coordination. And then as well, converting ORs for airborne precautions is not feasible, especially with urgent C-sections. But despite these challenges, the staff engagement was high and the algorithm became a practical, trusted tool. So we had hoped we would never need to use the algorithm, but fortunately we had it ready when we did. We had 2 scenarios over the past year, but for this presentation, I'll just review one. So in August of 2025, there was a newly pregnant, unvaccinated woman who was exposed to a community measles case. She was admitted to an airborne isolation room on another unit, but the entire maternal newborn team was alerted. The reason why she was admitted somewhere else was because she was under the 20 weeks of gestation. She received IVIG and had multiple admissions prior to her delivery. But for each admission, the algorithm was applied, and staff appreciated having a clear, consistent process, especially during off hours when IPAC support is limited. So in conclusion, when measles finally reached Ottawa, the teams felt prepared and confident. The perinatal measles algorithm strengthened preparedness and ensured consistent, safe care for pregnant patients and newborns during a period of rising measles activity. Both projects demonstrated how the ethical framework, practical tools, and strong collaboration can guide IPAC decision-making in a complex, emotionally charged environment. These initiatives highlight the essential role of IPAC in supporting vulnerable patient populations. So I'd like to take this time to acknowledge my co-authors who were not able to be here today. So Kylie, Denise, Terry, and Dr. Ekbo for their partnership throughout this work. Our director Mike, and to the NICU and special care nursery leadership teams for their ongoing support and for consistently championing IPAC in our units. This is my reference. And any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. She did 2 oral presentations.
So another round of applause. I have a pop quiz for the students in the room. What's an alternative if you don't have a negative pressure room and you need airborne precautions?